Hey everyone, Coach Jacob here from Next Level Powerlifting. Today we're going over everything you need to know for your first meet. We'll be going over what you need to know for the actual day of meet day. We'll have a separate video going over the whole sign-up process and getting ready for that actual first meet. The very first thing you'll have to do when you show up for your powerlifting meet is check-ins. You should be arriving about 30 minutes before your weigh-ins actually start. That start time for your weigh-ins is when the first person is going to be stepping on the scale. You don't know ahead of time if you're going to be first or last, so you want to make sure that you're early so you can get your check-ins done. So as soon as you weigh in, you don't have to worry for a little bit. You can just start eating straight away and start fueling for the meet to come. So check-ins themselves, nothing really crazy. There should be a table set up at the meet for you to go to. This table will have two of the judges. You'll go up, tell them who you are, give your government ID. This could just be like a driver's license or a health card, just so they know who you are, as well as your OPA number. Usually just a screenshot from the website works. So make sure you have that ahead of time so you don't have to go scrambling day of. You have it screenshotted and you know where in your phone it is. The third thing you'll need is going to be your True Sport. Same situation as that OPA number. You want that screenshotted and in your phone where you know ahead of time. If you're a little bit worried, you can always have print-offs as well. So you have that actual physical copy to show the judges there as well. So typically at that check-in table is also where they're going to be doing the equipment check. Sometimes it'll be two separate spots, but typically it's at the same table. So for that equipment check, this is where you'll have all your equipment that you'll be wearing while you're competing in your gym bag. So any clothes, socks included, that you're going to be wearing on the platform should be in your gym bag and not being worn by you currently. The only thing that is okay for you to currently be wearing when you're going to do your equipment check is the underwear that you're going to be competing in. This specifically applies more to males because you have to weigh in your briefs. It's required that you're wearing briefs or something similar. I'll put up the exact rule over top here. I forget the exact wordage they use for it, but essentially it's just briefs. Yes, there's rules as to what males have to wear underwears wise. So briefs, easiest way to do it. I'll also put up a picture of kind of what that looks like if you're unsure. So that is the only thing that you should be wearing, that you'll be wearing on the platform when you're doing your equipment check. Everything else should be in your gym bag. As you're taking this stuff out and showing it to the judges, just kind of let them know what brand it is. Obviously, you don't have to do that for like your socks or some of the other small things, but your belt, taking out your belt, this is an SPD belt, this is an Inzer belt. You'll do the same for your sleeves, your singlet, all the stuff that's actually has to be approved. Your socks and some of the other stuff that you'll be wearing that isn't approved, you just show it to them. At equipment check, the judges will typically pick up and kind of manipulate your items a little bit, your equipment and your clothes, just so they can make sure it's not been altered in any way. So fully put the equipment on the table, kind of hand it towards them, and then as soon as they're done with that piece of equipment, toss it off to the side to make room for your next piece. It's typically nice to have like a big duffel bag for this because as soon as you're done, someone else is going to be coming up to do an equipment check as well. So it's nice to have that big bag to kind of just pour all your stuff into so you're not holding up the line. Assuming you came early, like our earlier suggestion, it will now be time for weigh-ins. You should check what the weigh-in sheet says, where it says you are in the lineup, as soon as you arrive at the meet. That should be one of the first things you're doing just to make sure you know where you are in that lineup so you can plan the rest of your day accordingly. If you're right towards the top and you're one of the first people who are getting weighed in, you should be there ready to go. So you should get that equipment check and your check-in done as soon as you can so you can be ready at the door to weigh in as soon as possible. If you know you're not till a little bit later in the weigh-ins, that's all right. It just means we're gonna have to spend your time a little bit differently. You can be a little bit slower with your check-in and your equipment check, and we might also be able to get some other stuff done while we're waiting for you to weigh in. In that downtime can also be when we're doing our rack heights, which I'll touch on later. So for weigh-ins, this is one of the more nerve-wracking times depending on where you are leading into the meet. This could be where we're seeing if you're going to be competing in the weight class you planned on or not. Just a quick reminder, if you know that you're not going to be weighing in the weight class that you signed up for, you should email ahead of time and let the meet directors know, so then they can adjust your position accordingly. If you're a lighter lifter than you're supposed to be, you might have supposed to have been on a different day or a different time, so you might miss out on competing against the people you should have been. At some higher level meets, if you're weighing in the wrong weight class, you most likely will not be allowed to compete. So, weigh-ins. You walk in, there should be 2 judges in there. They will ask you to fully remove your clothes. You can stay in your underwear if you'd like to. Most people would. But if you are a little bit over and you want to get a couple extra grams off, that is one way to do it. So this is also where they'll be checking men's briefs, making sure that you are wearing briefs and not a piece of clothing that isn't approved. So at weigh-ins, you're going to have to show your ID once more. They just want to make sure that you are who you say you are and you are weighing in for the right person. The last thing you're going to be doing during weigh-ins is giving your actual attempts. This is where you give your first attempts, your openers. So what I typically do for my lifters is write down on one of the attempt cards, just on the back of it, what all their openers are. That way you don't have to remember it while you're like scrambling to take your clothes off. You're feeling a little bit awkward already. You don't want to have to be remembering numbers and potentially getting them wrong. So having that physical written down copy is really nice. Also helps so you don't have to go scrolling through your phone when you had to take it out of your pocket to get changed. So having them written down on a card makes it so much easier. Just be like, here's the card. They can write it down for you, or you have the card and you can say it out loud to them. Once you give them those numbers and they've done your weight, you have to sign to approve that you agree that these were the correct numbers, and then you're good. You can put your clothes back on and head back over to the actual warm-up room. Depending on where you are for that actual line of the weigh-ins, like I was mentioning before, can change the order of which we will do stuff on meet day. So rack heights was one of the things that I mentioned that can be at a couple different times. Typically on meet day, you want to get those things done as soon as possible so then you can chill. So depending on what your nutrition plan was leading into meet will very much affect what you're doing post weigh-ins as well. If you had to do a pretty aggressive cut, or essentially any cut at all, the very first thing you should be doing is eating and drinking fluids. You should be getting fluids in immediately and then eating nice and controlled. There is some other stuff that will get you to do after, but if you were doing any form of cut, that is your number one priority post weigh-ins. So I'm not going to go too deep into nutrition in this specific video. We'll cover that in some later ones. But in general, you want to be kind of sipping on fluids and just kind of grazing on food to start. You want to be getting fluids and food into your body sustainably over the next hour or two before you're doing your warm-ups. You don't want to be gulping down and chucking back food. Obviously, depending on time, if you showed up late or you were very near the bottom of weigh-ins, then you might have to rush things a little bit more. But in general, we don't want to shove all the food back and all the liquids back because we'll end up feeling bloated and kind of gross. So, rack heights. Rack heights is going to be the next thing that we're going to be doing, assuming we either did it before weigh-ins or after weigh-ins. Not a big deal as long as we're getting it done. So for rack heights, this is where we'll either go on the actual competition rack that you'll be using on the platform, or the meet will have some sort of other rack set up for you to check your rack heights on. You should be trying to get whatever rack is the exact same as what you'll be competing on. If you're competing on a Medix T rack, you shouldn't be checking your rack heights on a strong arm rack. You should be checking it on whatever you're going to be competing with. Yes, a lot of racks do have similar heights and similar numbers, so it might work out, but you don't want to be finding out once you're trying to unrack your first squat that you have the complete wrong height. So, rack heights are a very easy thing to do, but they're very important to make sure it's being done correctly. I've seen lifters before have either the wrong number written down and they don't catch it until they actually are doing the lift on the platform and it completely screws them up. So, for rack heights, there are 3 numbers we need to find out, as well as 2 other pieces of information. So, the 3 numbers that we need is your squat rack height. So this is just wherever you're going to be squatting at for your rack height. It's important that you're wearing whatever shoes you're going to be squatting in for your rack heights. So if you squat in squat shoes, that will change the height that you're going to be unracking at, obviously, because you're going to have that extra inch or so of heel. If you squat in flats, it's not gonna be as big of a deal, but you still should be wearing whatever shoe you're gonna be wearing for your squat rack heights. So put those shoes on, double check the rack height, make sure you feel comfortable with it. Leave a little bit of wiggle room for the bar to drift down once weight's actually added, because you'll be doing your rack heights just with the bar. Add an extra like ½ inch of clearance if you're unsure. Always opt for the higher number rather than the lower number. You don't want to be fighting the rack on the way out. It would be better to have a very slight squat just to get it up, and then you know you're clear for the way out. Other two numbers we need are both for your bench rack height. So you need your actual bench rack height where the bar is going to be, as well as the safety or neck saver height. So bench rack height we'll start with. This is obviously going to be similar to how you set up for your squat one. You just want a rack height that be able to unrack nice and easy without clipping the rack. You want it to, once again, opt for a lower one rather than a higher one. Also consider if you're going to be getting a lift off or not. If you're going to be getting a lift off, it's not as important exactly where it's going to be because someone's going to be helping you get it out. You still want it to be where you like it the most though. If you're not going to get any help for a lift off, you want to make sure you have your bench rack height set properly. You don't want it too low and you don't want it too high. So wherever you normally have it in the gym, that's where you're going to have it on competition day. The other number we need for the bench rack height, as I mentioned, is those neck savers. That's the kind of side safeties that are going to be there while you're benching. So the height for those, we want it low enough that the bar will never touch it while we're benching. We want to make sure that arch is greater than those neck saver heights. I've seen it happen in competition before. People have them set too high or they didn't check the numbers properly before submitting them and they did a pin press. That doesn't count, obviously, because it didn't go down to your chest. So that is why you want to make sure those are set low enough that you will not touch them. Now, that being said, they do need to be set high enough that you're not going to die. Neck savers are there to do exactly what they're called, save your neck. To set your neck saver height, once again, you want it so you won't touch it when you're benching normally with your full arch, but you do want it high enough that if you roll the bar to your neck, it will hit the safeties and not your neck. So when you're doing it, bring the bar to your chest, see that it doesn't touch, then roll the bar to your neck and see that the neck savers catch it. You've got it in the right spot. That's your last number that you need. So the other two pieces of information that I said you'd need is one is for your squat and one is for your bench. For your squat, you need to know if you want the racks in or out. If you don't know what this means you want your racks out. Having your racks in means the actual rack, the part that the bar is resting on, is pointed inwards. So you can have either one in or both in. If you don't know how to do that or you've never done it before, you want your racks out. Racks out is like your normal setup for a squat. People will have the racks in either if they're a very, very large lifter and they don't have the shoulder mobility to get in the bar. They have to go outside of the rack, so they have the racks in so their hands can fit outside of it while they're squatting. The other reason is for people who will clip the rack as they're walking out. They'll have the racks in a little bit so then they're able to walk out and not clip it as they're taking that step back. Last thing you need to know for your bench is if you're going to have your foot risers or not. Or what are they? Feet stands? I forget the exact name for it. But either way, if you are a very short person or you've got very, very bad hip extension, you can have these little foot risers. So it's like a 1-inch block that just goes right at the front of the bench. You put your feet on it if you're not able to reach all the way down to the floor and keep that full flat foot like you need in competition. So once again, if you've never heard of that, you don't want it. So just say no. There should be someone at the rack height station that can help you through all of this as well, but it's always nice when you know what you're doing. So once all that stuff is done, it's pretty much just the lifting left. There will be a pretty big downtime in between doing your rack heights and once you're actually going to do your first squat. During that time, you should be eating, drinking, and trying to kind of chill. Until you're actually starting your warm-ups, you want to stay kind of as chill as possible. You don't want to waste any energy being really anxious and nervous and getting your heart rate elevated. You want to just have nice, calm, mellow music if you find that helps. If you're with someone that you know, like your coach or your handler, and you're friends with them, you can always just chat as well. It helps kill the time and keep you nice and chill. Someone you know, it relaxes you. You don't want to get overly hyped during this time because you're trying to save that for later. You don't want to waste your energy on nothing. So during that downtime in between, typically that time will be about 2 hours. Typically your lifting will start 2 hours after the weigh-in times. So if your weigh-ins are at 7 a.m., lifting will typically start at 9 a.m. We're gonna run through a full day example. So weigh-ins start at 7 a.m. You arrive for 6:30 because you're early and you wanna be early because that's the right thing to do. You're early, so you do your check-ins and equipment check, and you're fully done those by 6:45. You have a couple minutes to kind of chill, set up your stuff by a combo rack so you know you're gonna have one once it's time for warm-ups. And then you got a little bit of time. You head over to weigh-ins about 5 minutes early because you already checked where you are in the list and you know you're first, which is awesome. So right when 7 o'clock hits, they say, are you blah, 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 blah? And you say, yes, I am. And then they bring you in the weigh-in room, you do the weigh-in stuff that we talked about, and then you're done your weigh-ins, you come back out, you can do your rack heights. You could have done it in that kind of downtime, that 15 minutes or so after equipment check, but you don't have to, there's no rush. So once you're done your weigh-ins, if you had that big cut, instantly into fluids and food. Probably want to do that whether you had a cut or not, but if you had a cut, more important. So we're grazing and we're sipping fluids as we're doing our rack heights. Rack heights are fully done, so now we're just eating and sipping fluids. That's it. We've got about another hour and a half, because probably by now it's about 7:30. So you got about another hour and a half before your actual first squat starts. Depending on how long you need to warm up, you probably don't have to do anything for about an hour now. During your training, you should kind of get a rough gauge as to how long it takes you to warm up for your squats, your bench, and your deadlift, so you know how to plan it for meet day. So if you know typically it takes you about 20 minutes to warm up to your squat top set, then you'll probably want around 20 minutes to warm up on meet day. So have that in mind while you're doing your warm-ups or while you're planning your warm-ups, that's about how long you want to take. Warm-ups should be fully planned before you show up on meet day. You should know what you're doing. If you have a coach, they'll do this for you or with you. For your warm-ups, typically people are starting about half an hour before lifting's going to start. Some people start a little bit sooner. Typically you'll do some general movement prep, try to warm up your body a little bit like you normally would in the gym. Then you're going to warm up for squats, how you normally would. If you take the bar in meet day. If at the gym you normally take a green as your next jump, take a green on meet day. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing around you, take what you normally take. Some people might be a little annoyed with you. If you're being an asshole about it, then they should be annoyed with you. Like if they've got 5 reds on there and you're like, can I take the bar? Get the hell out of here. But do whatever you normally do in the gym on meet day. You don't want to be messing up your warm-ups just because other people are doing stuff differently. As you are waiting in that kind of hour downtime before your warm-ups, they should have started to populate the actual lifting cast or whatever program they're using to track the stuff. They should be updating that with everybody's openers so you know where you're going to be in the lineup. So that will also help you plan your warm-ups. If you're towards the end of that lifting order, that means you have all those lifters before you before you're going to do your first squat. So you're going to want to be finishing your warm-ups later than everybody else if you're last in the lineup. If you're first in the lineup, you should be probably the first one done your warm-ups, because as soon as they go lifting started, you're lifting. So you'll probably want to be done like 5 to 8 minutes before lifting starts, so then you can chill and be ready to hit your opener. Other people towards the end of the lineup might not be done their warm-ups until after those first couple people have done their first squat. Yes, there's some different opinions there. Some people say you should always be done before the last call for changing your first attempt, which is 3 minutes before lifting starts. But depending on the person, for some people that's too long before hitting their opener. If you know you're going to be fine, that's fine. Now you've done all your warm-ups, you're heading up for your first squat, and you're good to go. So that is everything for how to get ready for your actual meet and everything you'll have to do day of On the logistics side of things, we'll have some future videos that'll go over full meet day from first squat to last deadlift, attempt selection, all that sort of thing. But that's everything for today. If you are competing soon or you plan on competing in the future and you're like, crap, I don't remember all the stuff that I need, or I want like a comprehensive list, we have a meet day checklist that you can use. So it's for free, link is below, just click the link and it sends you straight to our free meet day checklist. It has lists of everything that you might want at your meet, and it has little check boxes for you to follow as you're either purchasing or packing the items, so you can guarantee you don't forget a single thing. We also have some direct links that head to the websites for IPF approved equipment, so you know that you're purchasing the right stuff. You know that whatever you're buying will be allowed on meet day because it's from the list. That being said, if you enjoyed this video, please let us know. If there's anything you want to see in the future, let us know as well. We're always happy to help, and we want to get you guys better at lifting. Hell yeah.